Welcome to the Bloomingdale Public Library's class on Audacity, audio editing and recording. Audacity is a free audio recording and editing software that's available cross-platform, meaning you can use it on both Macs and Windows machines. It can be used for a wide range of purposes, from recording live audio to converting records or tapes to digital format, or even mixing multiple audio sources together into a multi-track project. Audacity is great if you're looking to develop basic skills needed to record and edit files for audio projects. So why use Audacity among all of the audio editing software that is available? Well, it has many tools and abilities that match pro-level applications, and the price for it is 100% free. That is, it is distributed freely as open source software, and many developers work on it consistently to improve it. While customer support isn't something you can expect for it, there is an active community and online documentation available to help users along the way. You would just have to visit forum.audacityteam.org. This is a great place to start if you need to ask questions or want to browse topics related to Audacity. This is the page for forum.audacityteam.org. So if you have any questions, you can take a look at this forum. You can propose advice to other members. You can check the README, and there's a variety of different resources available for Windows users, Mac OS users, and even Linux. But the first thing we need to do with Audacity is download it and install it to the computer. So I have a web browser open, and you can use Google Chrome, you can use Firefox, you can use Microsoft Edge, and what you'll need to do is visit www.audacityteam.org, and then from here the page will look something like this, and you have a few different ways to access the file to download. You can either go up here at the tab and find the version you're looking for, whether it's Windows, Mac, or Linux, or you can also select the button here, just a little bit lower here in the website, the web page. I'm going to select this button here, and then it will take us to a new page where we can download the file, but we have to first choose which platform we are using, and I am using a Windows PC, so I'm going to use the button here, but you do have the option to download the Audacity for Mac OS and for GNU and Linux. So I selected the one for Windows. The current version is 2.4.2. It could change as there are updates occasionally, but for now there will always be the updated most current version from the website. And one thing to note, so this is the link that we need to use, so we'll go ahead and select that. But as I was saying, one thing to note, it's going to take us to another website called fosshub.com, and I generally recommend that you do the download from the Audacity page that will take you to this page. However, I do want to make you aware that if you were to, let's say for example, I'm going to open a new tab and go to Google, and I will type in Audacity download, and you can find it here as well, but there will be places like sourceforge.net or Softonic and a variety of different places where you can download Audacity. But the reason that I recommend it audacityteam.org downloading directly from their website is because in the past there have been different websites that like to bundle extra software, adware, malicious things potentially, and sometimes you're not even getting the actual download. So it's best to go from the website, and even from the website you want to find the download by scrolling down to Audacity Windows Installer. As you can see, there is an ad up here that's kind of misleading, that wants you to download. So you don't want to press this blue button. You want to go down, and then you'll find that this information is available, 2.42, and we are using Windows, so we'll select this one. Alright, and we're going to save the file. And if you see this blue arrow highlighted, you would select that. That's where you can see the notification that shows that the downloader has been installed, or has been downloaded. And I'll open that folder, and I am prompted. User account control asks me if I want to go ahead and open this file and use it, and I say yes. I select the English language, and you can read through the Audacity setup wizard and then read the information here that's important, so you know what it is. And you can select where you're going to install this program, and everything looks good, and we'll install. Alright, the next prompt here will tell us some more information regarding the software. And basically you go ahead and select next when you're ready, and then you have the option to launch Audacity. So I select finish, and I kept the check mark on launching Audacity. So now we are opening the software, and as you can see, the first thing that pops up is some tips. So you can disable this by selecting the check mark down here where it says don't show this again at startup. But if you like it, you do have this available where it can give you some quick tips. So when you're done looking at that, you can go ahead and press OK. So now that we have Audacity installed and we've opened the program, well, we can start recording just right out the box as it is. I have a microphone, and generally most computers will have some kind of microphone already installed, but if you want to change the settings or the device preferences, because right now I have a external microphone connected to my laptop, and it is called the Blue Snowball, and just by default it's already selected, so I'm happy with that. We'll go ahead and just press the record button here, and I'm going to start speaking directly to the microphone, and as you can see, an audio track appeared when I pressed the record button and gave us this waveform as we speak. Now we can pause, and I can continue speaking, but it won't keep recording. Then I can press the pause button again, and then it can resume. Of course, you can also just stop, and that will completely stop the recording process. Now we have a scroll bar at the bottom that we can move left and right to take a look at it, and if we want to play it back, we will just go ahead and press the play button or the space bar. And I'm going to start speaking directly to the microphone, and as you can see, an audio track appeared when I pressed the record button. So that's what that looks like, and that sounds pretty good to me. However, if I wanted to make some edits and changes, we can do that with this program as well. We can also change the way the voice sounds. We can make some effect edits as well. But let's go over a lot of the different things that this program features, including all the different buttons that you see here. One of the most common tasks you'll likely perform on Audacity is to edit existing audio. You might need to trim down a lecture you recorded, or maybe you just want to use part of a song to place into a project you're working on. Whatever the case may be, importing existing audio into Audacity is really simple. Audacity can open many of the most common file formats, including WAV files, .aifs, MP3s, and so on. And there are a couple of different ways to import audio. On both the Mac and Windows versions, you can go to the File menu and choose either Open or Import Audio. So here they are here. So I selected File, and you can Open or Import. And both will get you where you need to be. Another simple way to import audio is to find the folder where that clip is located and just simply grabbing it, dragging it over to the Audacity window and dropping it. Now, right now we have 2 tracks, and it looks like we have 3, but the first one up here is in mono, and the second one is in stereo. We can talk about that a little more later, but for now, just know that we have a multi-track session going on now that we have 2 tracks. But this is the way that you can import audio into Audacity. Now let's take a closer look at these tracks and see how to play them back. When you import audio into Audacity, it shows up as a waveform. These jagged lines and values make up the waveform. It is a visual representation of sound waves where time is represented horizontally from left to right and the loudness of the sounds is represented vertically. So the louder the sound, the taller the waveform will be. And being able to see the recording's waveform is essential to audio editing processes. Pretty much all audio editing applications represent audio this way. So if you ever switch over to another program, you shouldn't have any trouble making the adjustment, at least in terms of being able to recognize the waveform patterns. So the 2 tracks that we have in this project are actually the same. One is in mono, the top one, and one is in stereo. And the stereo version has separate audio in left and right channels. And in mono, there's only one channel. And you can hear the identical audio on both the left and right sides. But in this case, our stereo track is the same on both sides. And you can tell just by looking at the waveforms, and you can see that they are identical. So I'm going to mute the stereo. Well, that's a little difficult. There we go. The stereo channel there. And you can see it's grayed out now, so that indicates that it is muted. So that leaves us only with the top source here of the mono version of this sample. I'll just play a few seconds of it by pressing the play button here at the top in green. In this project, we have 2 tracks set up. One is the mono sample and the other includes the stereo sample, which I have muted currently. And you'll know this by the fact that the mute button is pressed down and that also the waveform is grayed out. So we'll go ahead and play the top track, which is the mono sample.
Well, we have one farm in Ojai where we've been since 1998.
And so I press play here and press stop as well. You can also use the space bar to start and stop and then return to the starting point.
Well, we have one farm.
As you can see. Now, Audacity has quite a few tools that you can use to analyze and make adjustments to the waveform. The first one I'd like to point your attention to is the selection tool, which is located up here. It looks like an eye that you would see in a word processing program. And here it allows us to select portions of the audio here in the waveform. And I'm just going to drag it over so I have this first part.
Well, we have one farm in Ojai.
And you can make some adjustments to that selection as well. You can just click off of it anywhere and then you can start over again if you want to start or select another portion of the audio.
Where we've been since 1998.
You can also edit the selection as well by pressing the shift button down, holding it, and now we have this little finger here. If we click outside, we get more of the waveform in our selection. If we click inside, we decrease the selection. And you can also just kind of drag it over so you can select it more finely. You can do so forward and back. And that's what that looks like. So this selection tool is very useful in helping us edit the waveform for various reasons. You can use it for editing specific portions of your audio. So let's say, for example, if there's maybe a sentence or a blank spot that you want to cut out or delete, or maybe there's a run-on sentence that has too much information that you can edit. So we'll go ahead and do that right now and give you a good example. So let's take this part. So I'll play this back so you know what this sounds like.
We are in the city limits, the last property in the city limits.
So this part right here, I think we don't need.
The last property in the city limits.
So what I did was I selected this part, and if I want to make some adjustments to increase the selection size or decrease it, I can do so. And then I can also use this scissor here to cut out that part, and this is what that would sound like now.
An urban farm. We are in the city limits, and
it sounds pretty good. This is what it sounded like before we had that extra audio there.
Are in the city limits, the last property in the city limits.
Now, what I just did was I used the undo function to bring back the audio that I cut out, and you can do so by using this arrow, this left arrow, or by pressing Control plus Z. And if you want to redo it, you can press Control plus Y, or you can also go to Redo Cut here under Edit.
And that is
that's just one example of how you can use the selection tool, and even this tool or this tool, the cut tool and the undo and redo tool, excuse me. Now we've already seen that you can use the spacebar to start and stop playback. So
well, we have one farm in Ojai.
So tapping the spacebar is the equivalent of clicking the play and stop buttons here. Now that'll always take the playhead, which is the vertical line, back to where it was when you started playing the file. This can be convenient if you want to review a section many times. You can press the spacebar and play a little bit. You can press the spacebar again to send the playhead back to beginning, and then press it again to play from the same spot. Now if you were to press the shift, let's say we'll go ahead and select this part, and then I'm going to press shift and spacebar.
Well, we have one farm in Ojai. Well, we have one farm in Ojai. Well, we have one farm in Ojai.
And so what you see there is I've made a selection, and with the command of using shift plus spacebar, it just continues to play that particular portion. And that could be useful if you're just trying to review or analyze that particular part of the waveform. So that option gives you the power to basically play that selection until you stop. But if you actually want to stop the playhead where it is without making it jump back, you either want to click the pause button or use the keyboard command of P.
Well, we have one farm in Ojai.
So I selected P, and it stopped the barhead where I pressed P.
Where we've been since 1998. And that is really an urban farm.
As you can see, the P could be utilized in a different way than the stop button would where it would just take you right back to the start. And that could be pretty frustrating to have the playhead jump all the way back to the beginning when all you wanted to do was pause the playback for a moment. So if I click to deselect and press the spacebar and start playing, and I just want to pause it, I can just hit P. Of course, you can move the playhead to wherever you'd like it to start playing from.
And that is really an urban farm. We are in the city limit. And that is...
So just to review, if I were to press spacebar with the playhead being right here close to the 7-second mark, and you can see that indication here as well, you can press spacebar.
And that is...
And if I were to stop it by pressing spacebar and pressing it again, it will start there. Now if I were to start with the spacebar
really an urban farm.
And then press the P button,
We are in the city
it will
limits.
not return me to the playhead.
It's the last property in the city limits.
Another tool you'll use frequently is the zoom tool. This lets you zoom in on specific sections of the waveform by clicking. And by zooming in, you can do incredibly precise editing, like removing a loud breath before a sentence, or even chopping out individual words and reorganizing them in a different order. We can zoom all the way into the sample level, and you'll take a look at that now. And while it might not be particularly useful for us in this particular situation, but it is available, and we can zoom back out by holding the shift key while clicking. Or you can also take it back to the view where the entire waveform fits in within the window. And just keep clicking. And I let go of the shift button. I kind of want to zoom back in a little bit just so I could see more detail in the waveform. So I'm zooming out by holding down the shift button and pressing with the zoom tool, and I can go back and zoom in a little bit more. And another way to zoom in is by actually holding down the zoom button and then making a selection. And so now we've selected this one little area.
Are in the city limits. Are in the city limits.
Okay, that's a little bit too close. But yeah, that is another way that you can use the zoom feature. But that's not all that zoom can do. You can actually use a few different zoom tools at the top here. You have the zoom button for zooming in, which is also Control+1. You have the zoom out. And then you can also fit selection to width by selecting this tool or Control-E. Okay, 1 second. There we go. So Control-A and zoom. There we are. And then you can also fit project to width with Control-F, and then you can also zoom toggle to get it into the very zoomed in portion of this, and then go back. So zoom can be very useful, like I said, with editing, making some fine, precise edits to remove certain things, but definitely get used to using the zoom function here. So before we go further, let's look into how to record with Audacity. But before you can do so, you have to be familiar with your computer's input capabilities and how to route the inputs into Audacity. Now, even though many computers these days, especially desktop PCs, still have input and output ports like we see here in this picture, where you can see that we have a little mic input and some line in and line outs and a couple for speakers, or just as simple as this three here with the pink, blue, and green. To input headphones or microphone, or even just analog speakers that are for computers. those are a little bit outdated to these days. We are starting to see more computers and laptops using USB instead. So you can find USB microphones such as these that plug in directly into your laptop as a plug-and-play type of situation. Sometimes there is additional software that has to be installed for these to work properly, but a lot of the times with Windows 10, these are already built into the computer, so you can just plug and play and they work right out the box. To get some really high quality audio, this will do the trick for most people, but then there's also these things that are a little more professional. These are audio interfaces that connect directly through USB with a bit more features than the USB microphones. Now, there's not necessarily a good recommendation that I can make for any particular person, as everyone has their own needs with regards to recording. However, you can find lots of reviews and recommendations online for current USB audio interfaces, current USB microphones, even headsets such as these that are USB powered. You can find reviews online. You can review and take a look at them and research on your own. But really, it depends on whether you want to record basic voice over audio with a microphone, or if you want to consider getting a headset mic with USB functions, or if you're converting old records, you'll find it easy to connect a USB-based turntable, for example, rather than string together a series of cables to connect a traditional turntable to your computer. But the point is, using a USB-based device is going to sound better than the analog versions that came before that, and you'll also be able to use it with any computer, since all computers these days have USB ports. But not all of them have audio input ports like they did in the past. Now, some newer computers like Apple's MacBooks only have their proprietary ports. I believe it's USB-C or Thunderbolt. So you may have to purchase additional adapters in order to connect certain devices. Again, you'll have to do a little research to find the best device for your particular setup and needs. But yes, there are many different types of situations and solutions for you going the USB audio route. So let's talk about setting up your microphone and playback functions on Audacity. Now, by default, you may already have your computer speakers set up the way you like it, so you can leave things as they are. But when you have the microphone that you just installed to your computer, like for example one of these USB microphones that we were showing earlier, you can adjust some settings here directly from this spot where it says microphone Yeti stereo. That's the one I'm using right now, but I do have a few different microphones that I could utilize, including my webcam's microphone, but I'm going to stick to the Yeti in this case. Earlier today you saw me using the blue microphone. There are a variety of microphones that we have here, but that's the one I'm going to stick to. And for my speakers, I just have them set as to the speakers that I like. You can use other ones that are available here as well. And you can also adjust whether you want this to be recording in stereo or mono. And actually you can make some adjustments through clicking edit, then preferences at the bottom here, or the command control plus P to get here. And you can make some adjustments directly from the very top. It says devices, and it's set to my speaker of choice and also my microphone of choice. And if I were to press record, you can see my levels up here where the microphone LR is, and it seems like we're doing fine. Earlier in the video you might have heard my voice clip a bit, and that was before I made any adjustments. However, you can do so with the recording volume button down here. You can drop it down a bit, and as you can see, I'm still talking, but the meter has not has adjusted actually to me making an adjustment here. But if I put it back up to where it was, you can see that it raises as well. So you can adjust it to your liking and then play it back for yourself. So long as you're not clipping. And if you want to know what clipping looks like, I'm going to talk really loud into the mic, and you can see that the meter was getting to the red. And generally you don't want that to happen. And you can also see in the waveform that it also got larger and higher as I got louder. So just as long as you're not hitting the red too often, you should be fine. But you can always make the adjustment by adjusting your recording volume, and you can also adjust your playback volume as well. So let's talk about setting up your microphone and playback functions on Audacity. Now, by default, you may already have your computer speakers set up the way you like it, so you can leave things as they are. But when you have the microphone that you just installed to your computer, like for example one of these USB microphones that we were showing earlier, you can adjust some settings here directly from this spot where it says microphone Yeti stereo. That's the one I'm using right now, but I do have a few different microphones that I could utilize, including my webcam's microphone, but I'm going to stick to the Yeti in this case. Earlier today you saw me using the blue microphone. There are a variety of microphones that we have here, but that's the one I'm going to stick to. And for my speakers, I just have them set as to the speakers that I like. You can use other ones that are available here as well. And you can also adjust whether you want this to be recording in stereo or mono. And actually you can make some adjustments through clicking edit, then preferences at the bottom here, or the command control plus P to get here. And you can make some adjustments directly from the very top. It says devices, and it's set to my speaker of choice and also my microphone of choice. And if I were to press record, you can see my levels up here where the microphone LR is, and it seems like we're doing fine. Earlier in the video you might have heard my voice clip a bit, and that was before I made any adjustments. However, you can do so with the recording volume button down here. You can drop it down a bit, and as you can see, I'm still talking, but the meter has not has adjusted actually to me making an adjustment here. But if I put it back up to where it was, you can see that it raises as well. So you can adjust it to your liking and then play it back for yourself. So long as you're not clipping. And if you want to know what clipping looks like, I'm going to talk really loud into the mic, and you can see that the meter was getting to the red. And generally you don't want that to happen. And you can also see in the waveform that it also got larger and higher as I got louder. So just as long as you're not hitting the red too often, you should be fine. But you can always make the adjustment by adjusting your recording volume, and you can also adjust your playback volume as well. So moving on, we can go into a few different subjects here. I'm going to mute this track, and then I'm going to add another track, as Audacity is able to create multi-track sessions. And I'm just going to record another track right now, since it's active already. I'm recording my voice in 1, 2, 3. And you can play it back. And I'm going to highlight this part, and then I'm going to cut this, and I'm going to unmute this track. The reason I'm doing this, and I'm actually going to cut this part out too, because I want to hear how this works with two tracks on at once. Okay, so you can see that the tracks overlapped each other, so they were both playing at the same time. Now you can always make some adjustments. Now if you want to move, let's say for example, the track that's on the top. You want to move that, you would select the time shift tool and you can move it forward so it doesn't overlap, and then you can see how that transitions from this track to that track. And if you have multi-track sessions, you can find yourself using multiple voices. You can make some unique edits of your project. Speaking of projects, I'd like to show you how you can save it, since this is a multi-track project, and even if it isn't, you can go over to Save Project, and then you can save. You have a few different options, but generally the only ones that I ever need to use are these two. If you haven't already saved the project for the first time, go ahead and select this one, Save Project As. And even if you hadn't saved it already, this warning will pop up. So you see, it'll tell you here that it's for an audio project, not an audio file. For an audio file that will open in other apps, you would use export, and we'll go over that in a moment. So because I had never saved this, it requires me to find a place to save this project, and I'm just going to save it directly on my desktop, but you can choose folders like this one, for example. You can even right click within here and make a new folder and name it. So actually I changed my mind. I'm going to name this folder Audacity Project, and then you can select into it and then name it. And so I'll name it Audacity Project. You can see the type is .aup, the file type. That's the file type for this particular type of project, and I'm going to minimize all this so you can see where I have it saved directly on the desktop. And there it is, the Audacity Project folder. And I selected the Audacity Project folder, and inside you will see what I was talking about. This is the actual project, and I'll go ahead and close this out for now. If I were to select that directly, it will retrieve that project for me. And remember earlier I said that these tips will show up every time you open up the Audacity program. You can select don't show this again at startup and then press OK. Just get it out of the way, and the project is there as it was before we closed it out earlier. And if you wanted to export this project, the whole thing is an audio project, we can go to File, Export, and then you have a few different options here. You can export as MP3 or as WAV, and a few different formats as well. But I'll just select WAV. It'll take some time, but you can do so that way. And then it'll warn us your tracks will be mixed down and exported as one stereo file. And that's fine with me. And then you can give it some tags, names, but I'm fine with it just the way it is. But then we'll see how that is in a moment. As I'm not using the artist name, track title, or any of these things, I'll just go ahead and press OK, because none of this is important to me at this particular time, but it might be if you're working on a multi-track audio project, maybe some music. You can utilize this information to tag the audio that you're exporting. So I press OK, and if I go over to that project folder that I had earlier set up, you can see that it created a .wav file, which is the whole entire project mixed down. And so you can see that it opened up the audio file. Now I have Foobar 2000, but you can have something like Windows Media Player or another media player that will actually start this up. But just know that it ends in .wav as an exported file. You can also export it as an MP3 as well. And we can save it to the same folder, the Audacity project folder. And we can also change some formatting options. As WAV was lossless, so it didn't give us any of these options. It's just clear, uncompressed file format, audio file format, whereas an MP3 file is actually lossy and it is compressed, and you can choose different quality settings where medium would be the lowest quality setting that is available to you here. You can go up to what they call insane, which is 320, which is the highest. It's not necessarily insane, it just means it's the highest quality of audio that you'll get from an MP3 file. And you can make some other adjustments. However, I'll say that most of these you can leave as they are. If you wanted to go ahead and look into it more, I would suggest researching that. But other than that, I think you'd be fine if you were happy with just insane, extreme, standard, medium. Any of these are fine now. These days, computers have a lot of capacity, so I'm just going to go with insane, so I can have the highest quality compressed file. And once again, we get another warning. Your tracks will be mixed down and exported as one stereo file, and if that's okay, press OK. And if you want to give it a name and a track title, you can do so, but I'll press OK and just move forward. And once that has completed, we go back to that project folder. We see that the MP3 has been created. We were only able to scratch the surface of what Audacity can really do, but if you'd like to go further and learn more, you can always visit our website, mybpl.org. You can go to online courses and select lynda.com. They have many video tutorials and many classes that you can take, including classes on Audacity for free. You just need to register with them using your library card, and you get access to many resources for you to learn about a variety of topics, including Audacity. So I want to thank you for tuning in, and if you ever have any questions regarding Audacity, feel free to ask us in the computer lab, and I'm sure any of us could help you out with that if you decide to do any projects. Thanks again, and have a good day.